Hollowpox, The Hunt for Moroccan Crow, written by Jessica Townsend, and the third book in the Nevermore series, was published in 2020, 5 years ago. And yet it is so relevant to the terrifying news that is happening right now. Speaking out the truth that the establishment don't want to hear, calling out bigotry, how the media will spin stories to suit their own ideas, and how rumours and speculation that is spread will become reported as fact. I'm Chatty, this is my channel, Chatty the Mad Chatter, and this video is a bit more serious than ones I usually do. I think on BookTube there's always been a nice balance between talking about reading for fun and reading politically. I very much feel that the two entwine. I feel reading is fun, regardless of what you're reading, and I do think you have takeaway of every book that you read. But this video is definitely going to be landing more on the side of being political. I do not edit my long videos. This is not an edited video. All I have is pause and a big stack of notes. So for a lot of it, I am going to be reading off the page because I've got a lot to say and I want to make sure that it's eloquent rather than lots of ums and stuttering and me getting confused. So that's how it's going to be. Get yourself a brew, come and join me, and let's have a little chat. So when I reread Hollowpox recently, I was really kind of struck by how one of the scenes in this book just really impacted me on how I feel a lot of stuff is happening in the world. And with recent news events, it's just impacted me so much more, and I wanted to talk about it, and I also wanted to kind of link it to our wider reading and how reflecting on books can help us reflect on the world. The things that struck me in particular, the things that I'm feeling concerned about at the moment, is the genocide in Gaza, which is being ignored. Anyone who condemns the Israeli government's treatment of Palestinians is branded as anti-Semitic. And now we have one direct action group that have been prescribed by the UK government and law as a terrorist group. I've written something else here and I can't read it. Oh, and also this is, and then another aspect of this, I do also feel how these things, these themes that I've already mentioned, such as the use of media and kind of spinning stories and calling out bigotry, have been reflected in how trans activists have been portrayed in the media, and how trans people have been portrayed in the media, and the witch hunt for BIPOC women in sport, and how all of that has just been quite rampant recently. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be talking about this middle grade book, Hollowpox. How can this middle grade book produce all of that? Well, I'm going to explain why it is in particular that I feel that middle grade is just so important when we're reading, and it might surprise you if you're not a middle grade reader to just think how middle grade books can actually reflect things that are playing out on the world stage. And then looking at how reflecting on books in general, how we think about stories, also helps us think about what we think about the world and what's happening in the world and kind of what we choose to do with that information. And is being silent about stuff, is that complicit in atrocities? And at the same time, I want to balance that by looking at how you can protect your own mental health and not feel overwhelmed, because these are very big, upsetting subjects, especially depending like how personally involved you are in them. It is a lot and it's exhausting, and it is important to look after yourself as well, just as important as it is in raising voices and saying that I don't agree with this is not okay. And amongst that, the bigger the problems are, the more helpless and frustrated you can feel, and talking about what you can do about this. So I am going to be looking at this particular scene that I feel really highlights this and kind of kicks off in a non-spoiler way, and how that relates to the here and now. I really do hope that this video feels supportive and empowering. I have put a lot of other videos in the description box, and I do urge you to go and look at them. So I will refer to certain things, but I'm not going to be giving you the receipts of this information, like where I've got all my sources from to make these statements. There are so many videos out there that do a brilliant job of breaking these things down, giving you that information, and that is where I have got my information from. So I will be linking those in here. This is kind of like how it personally affects everyday people, I think. And I'm obviously only coming at this from my own viewpoint. I can't offer anyone else's viewpoint. So by using my description box to link videos to people who have got more of a personal involvement in it, who come from different backgrounds, who are much better at researching and putting across these things eloquently, I do urge you to go and look at those. So my first point, which is talking about why I love Middlegrade and why in particular I feel that Hollowpox just really made me want to talk about the current things that are happening in the world at the moment. So I think with Middlegrade, you have so much heart in these books. There is a lot more honesty and kind of a clear cut of right and wrong. The focus tends to be on big things like loyalty, friendship, compassion, the truth, and doing the right thing. And I think in adult books, we often sort of lose that by allowing kind of grey areas in, because life is not always so simple. We enjoy the complications and we enjoy exploring the nuance. But sometimes I think it's refreshing to just strike at the heart of things, like the right and wrong. Genocide is wrong. Locking people up under terrorism law for civil disobedience and criminal damage is wrong. Making people feel less valid because of who they are is wrong. And I think Middlegrade books just encapsulate that wrongness and help you kind of like sit there and reflect. Actually, like it's not like a complicated thing. Well, there's obviously complications to it, but essentially it's saying something is wrong when it's wrong, and that is important. So then looking at how we reflect, how we use books to reflect. Obviously reading is fun. That's why we do it. It's enjoyable. And for all the enjoyment we have, it does shape us. It does shape how we read and who we are and what we believe in and what's important to us. So I do feel I have a strong appreciation of justice and an interest in social issues. And I hope that is partly because of my nature, my personality, and partly because of the nurture aspect, how I have been brought up. And that's been strengthened through who I seek out, the people I surround myself with, the things I do, but it has also been strengthened by my reading. Even if we can't articulate it, we are drawn to stories and characters and plots because of how it makes us feel, how it moves us, how it inspires us. We can't help but have that reaction to what we're reading, even if we're not aware of it. And it's thinking about when you're reading, it's like, if I was in that situation, you know, where would I be? Like, who would I be friends with? Who's got my loyalty? Could I stand up? Could I speak out and count the way these characters in these books do? Just going for your basic examples, like, you know, could you ride with Gandalf? Could you protect Hobbiton with a sword? Or would you find that all too scary? And would that be too terrifying for you? And on the other kind of side of the scale, like, could I just stop for a moment in my busy life and sit down in 100-acre wood next to Piglet and just share a moment of comfortable silence and help him to feel brave? Like, just those different tiny, very different extreme examples of, you know, putting yourself in that situation. One is obviously a lot easier to relate to everyday life, but I think from seeing what we appreciate and what we admire through stories, it does help to consolidate our life decisions and how we want to be as people, and what our morals are, what our ethics are, and how the choices that we make because of this. So with all of that being said, looking at, if you don't take action, if you're like, well, I'm too busy, so I'm not going to go and sit down next to Piglet. Well, the orcs are really scary, so I'm not going to stand up for Hobbiton. I'm not going to say anything, making us complicit. And are we then complicit in the world when we don't say anything when things happen? And I'm now just going to stop talking for one moment because I'd forgotten that I had put 3 candles behind me. because I just wanted to just have a moment of, although yes, I'm talking about books in this video and my channel is mainly talking about books and the joy of reading and all of that joy, there are a lot of topics in everything I read, and I love that it is about a sense of justice and a sense of moral purpose. So that being said, my main thing that I just want to say is that genocide is happening in Gaza. There is ethnic cleansing happening right now, and it is horribly wrong. And I just want, in the tiniest way possible, show my support for all the people out there who are suffering by lighting a candle. It's a tiny thing, but it's a symbol of, it's a very small symbol of solidarity. Also to my trans brothers and sisters who are continuously being vilified in the media, and also to all of those people who are standing up for human rights, saying no to genocide, even though they know that they could be imprisoned for doing things like that. I'm going to light a candle for each one of those. And if I had better camera skills, I would do more of a close-up of this, but I don't. For me, lighting a candle, it just represents like a focus point. It's a little light being shone on a particular thing. Can I do this without burning my fingers? No. And it's just, it just gives me a bit of hope. I find candles very hopeful, and they're very symbolic in that way for me. So I'm just going to have those lit throughout this video. Okay, continuing with what I wanted to talk about, which is the idea of, if we don't say anything, are we complicit? So I am very privileged. I am a white person, I'm a cisgendered person, I'm a heterosexual person, and I live in the UK, which is a safe country, essentially. So I am very aware that my experience of monstrosities and catastrophes, I've had a very cotton wool existence. But like I said, I can only share my experience and what has moved me. So I'm talking about what is happening in the UK right now that I find terrifying. I've spoken previously about my support for trans rights, and how in April the legal definition of what a woman is excluded trans women because transphobes wanted it to. And the establishment have now done, because of this, they've done a 180 on their previous positions before, where they were being very trans positive, and you know, they'd be there for all the PR photos, we're inclusive, but what has become clear from this now, suddenly there's a legal definition of what a woman is, and they've given a platform to the transphobes who don't even need to hide behind the word gender critical anymore. They can just be out and out against trans people, and they're kind of now allowed that opinion. Like, it's no longer seen on the same level of being homophobic or racist. And so, crucially, the established government either are just misinformed about what it means to be trans, or they just don't care, that they've just been quite happy to just swivel on it and just not really care about how this legislation affects their rights and gives permission for people to come after them. This is not okay. It's not okay. So one of the things that happens in Hollowpox, this particular scene comes out after there has been a series of violent attacks. So in this magical land, you have humans and you have animals, which are animals. So just the same as we have in this world, but they're called animals. Then you have Wunimals. You have Wunimal minors and Wunimal majors. So Wunimals are essentially same sentient levels as humans, but they just have animal appearances or animal features. So a Wunimal major is someone that could look like an animal. They could look exactly like a dog, but they can sit, play a game with you, have a chat with you, go to work, do everything that a human would be expected to do. And a Wunnimal minor is someone that might have characteristics. So they wouldn't fully look like a dog. They might just have like a hair patterning or like dog ears. So there's certain animal characteristics within their presentation, but mainly they look human. So we find out a little bit more about the society within Nevermore, and that Wunnimals were seen as second-class citizens for a long time. And it is only recently that they have won their rights to be on a level footing with the humans. So that's the background we have of this. So they're already kind of a minority group that don't have the same kind of privilege as the humans. Though it's been brought up, but it's still quite precarious. You then have this disease that has started to appear in Nevermore, where there's no rhyme or reason to it, but suddenly a Wunnimal will become really aggressive. It's like they lose all of their sentience, and all of their kind of animalistic aggressive tendencies come to the forefront, and they just go crazy with all of this aggression until they knock themselves out, essentially. And then they're just like this shell of a being. They don't know why, they don't know what's happened. It's scaring people. Wunnimals within that, they have no control over that. They're terrified. They are the victims. But they quickly become the scapegoats because they are the dangerous ones. So people are terrified of them and think that maybe they shouldn't be mixing with other humans. So it all kind of kicks off within a scene within Hollowpox, where there is a party and there are Wunnimals and there are bigoted humans who don't think the Wunnimals should be there. And there's a wonderful scene where they display blatant bigotry against Wunnimals, and they are called out for it by one of the fabulous characters within Nevermore. And what happens then is, obviously you have media journalist people there, and the thing that sells the stories is Wunnimals behaving badly. They love a newspaper story about a crazy Wunnimal because people just lap that truth as, funny enough, a little bit like what we have here, where tabloids love to absolutely slate some of the more minority groups that they do not like because it sells papers. Yay. So again, very similar. Within that, you also get how the kind of the cover-up spin doctors like to try and present things. So you have a character who is really good at trying to sell certain aspects and try and take control of the media story and pop it in a certain way. And you also get how a particular event happens and then it's reported in there and it's not shown in that light at all. Like there is a lot of false information within that report, but then that's kind of repeated on as truth. So that is kind of the particular instance that I feel just highlighted so many of these things. And there is a wonderful line in there, and if you have been following the Nevermore stories and the Nevermore read along by the author Jessica Townsend and have listened to her talk about Hollowpox, she really covers this chapter so well and talks about how pleased she is that a particular line has been quoted at her so much. And this is where one of the characters who is encouraged to just ignore the bigotry, like don't let it get to them, just let them go, they're not worth it. But she specifically says, actually, you can't let bigotry go. Because if you let it go, people think it's okay. And then they get louder and louder and louder. And this is true. We are seeing this. We are seeing this happen right in front of our eyes. So both with trans people, so many people like to sell it with, oh, we need to make sure that women are safe, or it's unfair in sports, or think of the children. But essentially it's just because they don't like trans people. Like you can dress it up how you want, but it is because they don't like trans people. And trans people deserve dignity, to be left alone, to live their life, and to change wherever they want to, pee wherever they like, and keep fit wherever they like, just as everyone else does. And it should not matter at all. But transphobes have become bolder and louder and are now rolling away rights and are being encouraged to be handed out of those spaces because this law has given them permission to do that, because they were not called out enough for it, because they hid behind being gender critical, not transphobes. And it's like, if you have a member of the trans community on a panel discussing trans rights, they feel they need to have a transphobe on there as an alternative opinion. That should not be happening. That should never have been happening. Can you imagine, like in Black History Month, having a panel of people, and then, oh, hold on, for a point of impartiality during this panel where we're discussing Black History Month, here's a member of the KKK who doesn't think we should have it. It would be ridiculous. So why has it been allowed? And if we don't, just like they say in the book, if we do not tell the transphobes that they are wrong, and if we do not support our trans siblings, then we are complicit in standing aside and letting this rhetoric keep rushing in. And it's gaining momentum, and it's scary. And I'm so sorry to anyone who's affected by this. I'm so sorry that you're having to live with this. And on to the other aspect I wanted to talk about, the other vilifying of people, and that is people who are supporting Palestinians, people who are saying stop the genocide. I'm still educating myself a lot on this one, but if we turn away from what is happening right now with the genocide of Gaza, are we also complicit in that? If we're not saying stop, if we're not saying don't do this, are we then just allowing it to happen? Our government certainly is. Again, in the video description, there's so much evidence of atrocities committed by the government and the military of Israel on hospitals and civilians in Gaza. Around the world, the leaders are all talk, but there is no one actually stopping the government of Israel from bombing Gaza, from cutting aid to Gaza, from stopping water in Gaza, from stopping power supplies in Gaza. There is video evidence that the UK government has received money from Israel and that the UK are supplying aeroplane parts. Again, this is within the videos in the description box. If you want to find out more, if you want to get yourself more informed, then please look at those. And the BBC has recently dropped a documentary it commissioned, which is Gaza Doctors Under Attack. And they have refused to air it because they say it won't be seen as impartial. So a documentary, which is a factual thing, they are worried that this document of hospitals being bombed, of doctors being tortured, is going to show that the BBC is not impartial on what is happening in Gaza. Channel 4 and Zeteo, which is linked in the description, they are sharing it. You can access this documentary by going to those places and watching it there. This is big. Genocide is happening in our time. There is an ethnic cleansing happening in our time. This is upsetting. We should be upset about it. We should allow ourselves to feel upset by this. We should allow ourselves to feel angry that this is happening and furious that nothing is happening to stop it. Of course we should. But there's not always a productive outlet for those feelings of anger and those feelings of sadness. It feels like it's out of our hands. And when you don't have a productive outlet for those emotions, to protect ourselves, we hide it away. We put it behind us. We try and make it, just quiet it down because we can't do anything about it. So we should just leave it. I've done this. I've absolutely done this. I'm very guilty of when I found something I can't cope with right now. I just don't want to see it. And that is our self-preservation. You know, we know our own bodies. We know when we can pick things up and manage it again. I came off Facebook because it wasn't good for me. I constantly would see all these different petitions and all these different things happening, and I felt I had to sign every one of them. I had to be a keyboard warrior and just be sharing everything, and actually it was really exhausting, and I don't think it made any impact really from doing that. I just felt really burnt out by it. I felt overwhelmed by it, so I came off. We need to balance standing up and shouting about injustice with protecting ourselves. It's very normal to feel overwhelmed by the scale of it and feeling, well, what can I do? How can I help? One small thing could be, remember looking after yourself, get yourself some tissues, get yourself a blanket if you like to wrap something around yourself to feel warm, to feel safe. Get yourself some chocolate to give yourself those nice endorphins, and watch Gaza, Doctors Under Attack. Obviously, it's going to affect different people different ways, and there's going to be people more affected by others. I don't have any personal trauma in terms of any of those things, but everyone comes from a different place. So if it's not right for you, don't watch it, but read about it. Make sure you take care of yourself, but find out the gist of what that documentary showed, what truths are uncovered. See the bravery of the Palestinian people and the documentary makers from getting the truth out there. You can gather knowledge. You can inform yourself. You can look up independent news stories. You can look up the big news stories, piecing it all together. So finding out one particular story about one particular thing, you can get an overview depending on who's reporting it to kind of give yourself an idea of what is correct about it. And which media outlets you trust and which ones you don't trust, which ones you feel have a different kind of spin on them, and which ones they're trying to downplay things, and which ones they're trying to show things in a different light. Again, there are videos in the description box that talk about these types of things and how this is used. Share this knowledge you have. Talk to people. Have you seen Gaza, Doctors Under Attack? Have you read about it? Have you heard what is actually happening? Talk to people about it. Share that knowledge. Make sure other people are aware of what's going on. That's a small thing that you can do. Apologies for all the rustly paper. And because one of the things that is recently happening, again, going back to Hollowpox, we've got those lovely spin doctors. We've got the people going, don't look at the animals. Don't look at the animals. Look at this shiny thing over here. Look at this. Look at this exciting thing that we've got going for you here. Look at this news story we're going to thrust in your face. It's a distraction technique. And we've had it with Iran, Glastonbury musicians, and the group Palestine Action being prescribed as a terrorist group. Previously, Palestine Action was seen as a direct action group, a civil disobedience group, a protest group, not a terrorist group. It is up for you to make your decisions on that. But the law now says they are a terrorist group. And whilst we talk about those, we're forgetting to keep pressurising the government about stopping genocide. Why does the government want our silence on this? Why is the government more concerned about machinery in air bases and its place on the world stage, getting to, shake hands and do trade deals and go to all those fancy meetings, rather than human life and the voices of its own citizens? Throughout history, rights have been won through a mix of, what have I written? Oh yeah, polite lobbying, marches, sit-ins, etc. Examples of these are the suffragists, who approached through discussions, and they didn't, go and blow up post boxes or chain themselves to railings or anything like that. They went and had meetings and discussions and handed out flyers and encouraged peaceful marches and things like that. And you also have Stonewall for the LGBTQ rights, advocating for those. Mainly done a lot through working with the government, doing lobbies, putting all of these things out there. But what grabs everyone's attention and makes impact are the direct action tactics and the civil disobedience of the suffragettes and the stunts from other LGBTQ plus groups around the time, for example, of Section 28. There were a group of, I think they were all lesbians, that invaded the BBC newsroom and started shouting, stop the clause. And then also you have the abseiling lesbians into the House of Lords. And there were other stunts that different activists pulled at different points. So in Hollowpox, the focus wasn't so much on how can we support the animals? How can we stop them falling into this? How can we help them? It was on how do we protect the humans? The humans might be near animals. The animals should be kept away. Oh my goodness, how dare you have animals in here? Get them away from us. Get them out. So the group Palestine Action has now been prescribed as a terrorist group. And showing support for them now means a possible 14 years in prison under terrorist law. Prior to them being prescribed a terrorist group, there were certain people who committed acts of civil disobedience, but were then imprisoned under terrorist law. So even before this came into place, there were certain people in the name of stopping genocide doing, damaging machinery and handcuffing themselves to places and spraying paint. They are imprisoned under terrorist law. This makes you feel afraid to voice any pro-Palestine feeling and silence you from speaking out about the genocide in Gaza. What's next? What else is the establishment afraid of and wanting to silence? It is scary. Just like in Hollowpox, it's so much easier for the establishment to put the focus on the Winimals and make the Winimals stay away. The government finds it easier to make those protesting be quiet and stay away than actually wanting to deal with the actual problem that's being protested about. In this case, the genocide of Gaza. Not everyone can abseil into the House of Lords. Not everyone can handcuff themselves to building and obstruct things, or throw paint, or defuel an aircraft. But there are lots of ways to show support and say that this is wrong. There are demonstrations, there are marches, you can do lobbying to MPs, you can raise money to support causes that are trying to help. You can write letters of support to political prisoners. You can make art showing your feelings about all of this. You can write things like poems, music, whatever your outlet is. And if you're spiritual, you can pray. Like, it sounds, especially everyone who's not spiritual, they'll be like, what are you talking about? But I do think that, that can help focus you. It can help focus you. And maybe from doing that, those who aren't spiritual, maybe you think about it as a form of meditation. I don't know. But you might find an answer. It might allow you to focus your thoughts and think, okay, how can I help? How can I achieve things? It can be helpful. As well as giving strength and love to those people who are suffering so much worse than we are. You're not the only one who might feel scared and overwhelmed by this. Talk with people about how you're feeling. Don't feel you need to suppress it. Let it out. Talk to someone who feels safe. And you could choose one thing. Just one thing that you feel you could do that might help. Every one small thing, together they do become a big thing. Together we will show we don't agree with this. Together we will not be silenced. Together we will show support to people who are suffering. Make sure that you do step back and do something kind for yourself. And then decide when to go back in. So don't feel you've got to be in it all the time, because you also need to protect yourself. It is overwhelming. There's a lot of heavy stuff there. There's a lot of heavy stuff that rightly will make you feel upset and angry. But it's also not good for you to be in a perpetual state of being upset and angry. It's helpful, but you shouldn't be in it all the time. So you do need to step back and protect yourself. Whether this is about the genocide in Gaza, whether this is about trans rights, whether this is about rights of disabled people being taken away, the welfare bills being cut, like any particular thing that's making you upset that you feel helpless by, there are small things that you can do to make your voice heard. But also make sure that you do take a step back for yourself as well. No one can help anyone if they're burnt out. You've got to be realistic. And if it is just even smaller, just looking up a video about that subject that you want to know more information about, or an article about it for you to read tomorrow when you're in a better place to be proactive, and you'll be more successful when you've got that brain space, then that's a really positive thing. I'm gonna finish this video by reading aloud the extract from Hollowpox. Thank you for watching. Please, like I said, watch the videos. And I just think it's important that, as well as this being a fun, safe place where we can all enjoy and come together and have a lovely time with books, I think it's also important to talk about big stuff as well and how that can affect us. So I'm going to say, take care of yourselves. I'm going to say happy reading to you all, and I'm going to end by reading you the extract from Hollowpox. Scene setting. Our protagonists have just been having a little bit of an exchange of insults with the Wanimal bigots, the bigots of Wanimals. Is there a problem here? Fenestra had arrived just in time. For those who don't know, Fenestra is a Magnificat. She's not a Wanimal, but she is a giant cat, channeling a lot of kind of no-nonsense vibes. She planted herself at the end of the desk, stationed between each side like a referee at a tennis match. The woman twitched with revulsion. Oh, another talking animal. Who in the 7 pockets wrote this guest list? They ought to be arrested for crimes against decency. Morgan, Jack, Hawthorne and Cadence all looked up at Fenestra, holding their collective breath and waiting for an explosion. But Fen surprised them by responding in what was, for her, a reasonably polite tone. Not an animal, not a guest. I work here. How can I help? A cat working in a 5-star hotel, said the man with a disbelieving little giggle. Glad we're not staying the night, darling. We might get fleas. Once again, Morrigan and the others hunched their shoulders and braced for impact. But again, Fenestra managed to restrain herself. It's a 9-star hotel, she told him calmly. I don't have fleas, and I'm not a cat. The man rolled his eyes. Sorry, cat one. Not a cat one either. Fen's lip curled to reveal the tip of one of her gleaming yellowish fangs. I'm a Magnificat. It's a whole other thing. Read a book, for goodness sake. The woman flinched. You're very rude. Fenestra stood up to her full height. You're very rude, and your dress is ugly. There she is, thought Morrigan, torn between nervousness and glee. The woman gasped. Excuse me? No, I won't excuse you or your behaviour, Fen interrupted in a bored, impatient voice. You're a bully and a bigot, and frankly, I've no idea how either of you made it on the guest list. I can only assume you're gate-crashing. Fen, said Jack, gently tugging at the Magnificat's fur. An audience had begun to gather around the concierge desk, and they all looked nervous. Maybe we should just ignore... We don't ignore bigotry, Jack, said Fenestra. That's how cowardly bigots turn into brave bigots. How dare you, spluttered the man, clutching indignantly at his lapels. We shan't return to the Hotel Deucalion if this is the sort of treatment. You shan't return to the Hotel Deucalion. From now on, there'll be a big sign behind the check-in desk with your faces on it saying no admission. The man was struck momentarily speechless, but swiftly recovered his bluster. I demand to speak with the manager. Who is in charge here? Fen took 2 slow, deliberate steps towards him and pushed her face close to his. Her enormous amber eyes dangerously narrowed, her wet pink nose almost the size of his head, and when she spoke, her voice rumbled like an idling engine. Morrigan could feel it reverberating from the floor. I'm in charge here. Fen leapt on the desk and bared her teeth at the couple and hissed. She's infected, the woman shrieked. The cat has the Hollowpox. She's not infected, Morrigan shouted, running around the desk to stand between them, arms thrown wide. She can't be infected. She's not even a Wanimal. She just told you that. Call the stink, the man shouted. It has the Hollowpox, cried another guest. Get back, beast! He picked up a chair, shoving it violently into his direction. Everywhere Morgan looked, people were picking up items to use as makeshift weapons against Fenn, who was naturally firing up in response, hissing and yowling and batting away to any weapon that came close. Jack climbed up onto the concierge desk behind her, shouting to be heard, "Please, everyone, calm down. This is just a misunderstanding." And that's how it escalates. But the key thing is, we don't ignore bigotry. That's how cowardly bigots turn into brave bigots.